Today, we are living in two completely parallel universes inside the same franchise simultaneously, and the contrast between them is so stark and so revealing that it tells you almost everything you need to know about where the San Francisco 49ers are heading as the 2026 season approaches. On one side, you have Brandon Aiyuk, who has somehow managed to take an already catastrophic situation and make it dramatically worse on what appears to be a daily basis, escalating his social media campaign against the organization that paid him $50 million in a way that is simultaneously baffling, sad, and genuinely damaging to whatever professional future he might have left. On the other side, you have Kyle Shanahan canceling mandatory minicamp after the roster achieved 100% attendance during the entire offseason program, a quiet but powerful statement about the culture, the commitment, and the organizational health of a franchise that is preparing for another championship run. Both stories are significant. Both deserve honest analysis. And together they paint a picture of an organization that has fully separated its present from its past and is locked in on what matters. Start with Aiyuk, because the situation has escalated to a level that genuinely demands to be addressed head-on. Over the last several days, Aiyuk broke his social media silence and came out swinging in a direction that serves absolutely nobody, least of all himself. In an Instagram video, he suggested that the 49ers are afraid to let him go, claiming the team keeps referencing off-field issues but will never question his ability as a football player because they know exactly what kind of player he is. He followed that with additional content essentially claiming the organization is angry at itself for paying him $50 million early in the contract extension and then watching certain guarantees disappear. The message was not subtle, the target was obvious even without naming names, and the timing, coming with an active arrest warrant for street racing already hanging over him, was about as self-destructive as anything a player in his position could do. Here is the reality that Aiyuk either does not understand or has chosen to ignore. The 49ers have absolutely no financial pressure to release him right now, while he sits on the reserve list, not participating with the team and not forcing any decisions. The organization continues to spread the dead money from his contract extension across future salary cap years in a way that actually benefits San Francisco. The team is not bleeding money with every passing day. Aiyuk is the one who voided nearly $27 million in future guarantees by refusing to show up for rehabilitation on his surgically repaired knee. The financial leverage in this situation belongs entirely to the 49ers, and the social media campaign that appears designed to pressure the organization into action is pushing against a wall that has no reason to move. The Washington Commanders' signal embedded in his social media activity is the detail that generated the most conversation, and it deserves honest evaluation. He follows his wife, his personal brand Adidas, the Washington Commanders, and Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels, his former Arizona State teammate. He has been photographed wearing a Washington hat. The message is not exactly coded. Whether this represents a genuine desire to join that organization, an attempt to manufacture trade leverage through social media pressure, or simply a player making increasingly emotional decisions in a difficult moment is impossible to know from the outside. What is knowable is that Commanders general manager Adam Peters has had multiple opportunities to pursue Aiyuk and has declined every time. There is no concrete reporting, no credible insider information, no sourced trade framework connecting Washington to Aiyuk in any meaningful way. The follow pattern and the hat photo are vibes, not journalism, and until Peters picks up a phone and calls John Lynch with an actual offer, this is speculation dressed up as a story. General Manager John Lynch said in January that it was safe to say Brandon Aiyuk had played his last snap as a 49er. 6 months later, with the relationship having deteriorated further rather than improved, with a social media war being waged, With an arrest warrant in the picture, with the organization moving forward and building around a receiving core that now features Mike Evans and other additions, Lynch's January assessment looks more accurate than ever. The final chapter of the Aiyuk era in San Francisco is being written in real time, and the author of the ending is Aiyuk himself. The sadness of the situation deserves acknowledgement because it is real. There was a version of this story that looked completely different. Brandon Aiyuk in his prime was one of the most dangerous receivers in the NFC. In 2023, he produced to be celebrated rather than analyzed with concern. Kyle Shanahan canceled mandatory minicamp after the roster achieved 100% attendance throughout the entire voluntary and mandatory offseason program. Excluding Aiyuk, who is not expected to be part of the team's future regardless. 100%. Every player who is expected to contribute to this team's 2026 championship run showed up, put in the work, and earned the reward that Shanahan gave them in the form of extra rest before training camp begins. This is not a small thing. Coaches do not cancel mandatory practices for rosters they do not trust. They do not reward attendance records for teams that are not fully committed. The decision to give these players additional recovery time is a statement of faith from a head coach to his locker room. And that relationship between coaching staff and players is one of the foundations upon which winning cultures are built. Look around the NFC West and the contrast becomes even sharper. The Arizona Cardinals are holding every available practice session because they have a new coaching situation, new system installations, new questions to answer at multiple positions. They need every rep. The 49ers do not, and the reason they do not is that Shanahan has spent years building a culture and installing a system that players know and understand deeply. That organizational stability and continuity is a genuine competitive advantage that often goes unrecognized in the broader football conversation. The Levi's Stadium World Cup scheduling situation adding a practical element to the decision does not diminish what the choice represents. The stadium being used for World Cup matches in early June means the facility would have been unavailable for certain periods anyway, and working around that reality while simultaneously rewarding your roster for exceptional attendance is exactly the kind of organizational intelligence that separates well-run franchises from poorly run ones. Shanahan turned a logistical constraint into a cultural asset, and his roster will arrive at training camp rested, healthy, and with the organizational confidence that comes from being trusted by your coaching staff. When you hold both stories side by side, the picture that emerges is clarifying rather than confusing. One story is about the past, an unresolved situation from a contract signed in 2024, a relationship that deteriorated through decisions made over the last 2 years, a player whose behavior has made him essentially untradeable and unemployable in his current state. The other story is about the present and the future, a committed roster, a trusted coaching staff, a culture of accountability and professionalism that manifested in 100% attendance and earned a reward. The 49ers organization is not distracted by the Aiyuk noise. The coaching staff is not losing sleep over Instagram videos. The players who matter, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, and the rest of the group that is going to take the field when the season begins are focused on what contenders are supposed to be focused on. The Super Bowl window is open. The expectations are enormous. The roster has talent at almost every position. And the organizational culture that Shanahan has spent years building is functioning exactly the way it is supposed to function even when external noise is at its loudest. That is what real contenders look like from the inside, and that is what the canceled mandatory minicamp tells you about where the San Francisco 49ers are right now. Niners faithful, you know what to do. Smash that like button, drop your take in the comments. Is the Aiyuk relationship officially and completely over? And do you think canceling minicamp was the right call from Shanahan? And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, now is the perfect time to fix that. We are building this community together, and we want you here from the beginning. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss a moment of the ride. Go Niners!